I was
Look,
standing at a
we don't
crowded
have
bank
all
counter
day. She
when my
clearly
own
didn't
daughter
bring the right
laughed and
paperwork,
said,
so I'll just handle it
"My mother
myself.
doesn't even understand how a checking account works. Just ignore her and let me handle everything." People turned to stare while I stood there humiliated, clutching the folder my late husband had told me never to lose. Then the bank manager
We
walked
need to
out, looked
discuss this
directly
matter
at me
right
and
now.
quietly said,
Ma'am,
"Mrs.
I'm
Chloe
afraid these
Parker,
documents are insufficient.
before anyone
We've
signs
detected some
anything,
irregular
I
activity,
need
so we've
permission
placed a
to
hold
open
on
your
the
hidden
entire
file."
amount.
In that instant, my daughter's smile began to disappear. If this story touches your heart, I'd truly appreciate it if you'd like this video and subscribe to the channel. As you listen, I'd love to know what you think. Have you ever been judged by someone who should have known your worth? Leave a comment below, and if you're watching from somewhere in the world today, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there. I always enjoy reading every message and knowing we're sharing this journey together. My name is Chloe Parker, and for most of my life, I believed a mother's love meant giving until there was almost nothing left of yourself. I was 68 years old when that day at the bank happened, living alone in a small brick house on the east side of Columbus, Ohio. It was not a fancy house, not the kind of place my daughter Lauren would ever brag about to her friends, but it was mine. The porch sagged a little on one side. The kitchen cabinets still had the same brass handles my husband Daniel installed with his own hands. In the spring, tulips came up near the mailbox, even though I had not planted new bulbs in years. Daniel used to say, "A house remembers who loved it." After he died, I understood what he meant. Every room held a piece of him. His old work boots still sat on a shelf in the garage. His Bible stayed on the nightstand with a folded receipt tucked between the pages where he had marked something years ago. Sometimes, when the house became too quiet, I would run my hand along the hallway wall and remember the sound of his laugh bouncing through our home. Daniel Parker had not been a rich man in the way people think of rich. He did not wear expensive suits or drive shiny cars. He ran a small construction business for nearly 30 years, building decks, repairing roofs, remodeling kitchens, and treating every client like a neighbor. He came home with sawdust in his hair and soreness in his hands, but he always carried himself with dignity. He used to tell me, "Chloe, money is only useful if it protects peace." At the time, I thought he was just being poetic. I did not know he was preparing me for a day when peace would cost me more than I ever imagined. Our only child, Lauren, had always been smart. Even as a little girl, she wanted the best pencil case, the cleanest shoes, the biggest slice of birthday cake. Daniel called it ambition. I called it strong will. We both believed she would grow out of the sharp edges once life humbled her a little. But life never humbled Lauren. It rewarded her. She became a marketing director for a medical device company in downtown Columbus. She married well, moved into a beautiful home in Dublin, and learned to speak in that polished tone people use when they want everyone to know they are important. Her clothes changed first, then her car, then her laugh, and finally the way she looked at me. At first, I told myself she was busy. When she stopped coming by on Sundays, I said, "She has her own family now." When she forgot my birthday and sent flowers 2 days late with a typed card, I said, "At least she remembered." When she introduced me to people as my mother, she lives on a fixed income, I smiled as if those words had not landed like a slap. A fixed income, that was what she saw when she looked at me. Not the woman who worked double shifts at Miller's Bakery so she could pay for Lauren's private tutoring. Not the mother who sold her first car to cover Lauren's freshman housing deposit. Not the woman who wore the same winter coat for 11 years because Lauren needed braces a laptop and later help with rent during graduate school. Lauren never knew how many nights I stood in our kitchen counting cash from my tip jar under the yellow light above the sink. She never knew Daniel and I skipped vacations for 20 years. She never knew I once pawned my mother's pearl earrings to pay for her summer leadership program because she had cried and said everyone else was going. And maybe that was my fault. Mothers have a dangerous habit of hiding the cost of love. We swallow the exhaustion. We cover the receipts. We smile through sacrifice because we do not want our children to feel guilty. But sometimes, when children never see the cost, they begin to believe nothing was paid. After Daniel passed, Lauren changed even more. Grief did not soften her. It made her impatient. She came to the funeral in a black designer dress, stood beside me for photographs, and whispered, "Mom, please don't cry too much in front of people." I remember looking at her thinking I had misunderstood, but I had not. That was the first time I saw clearly that Lauren cared more about appearance than tenderness. Still, she was my daughter, my baby, the same little girl who used to fall asleep with her hand wrapped around my thumb. So I forgave things before she asked. I made excuses before she apologized. I answered every call, even when I knew she only needed something. And she always needed something. A babysitter when Olivia was younger. A casserole for a school event. A check to cover just a short gap. My signature on minor paperwork. My presence at family gatherings where she barely spoke to me unless someone was watching. Her daughter Olivia was different. Sweet, observant, quiet in the way children become quiet when they notice more than adults think. By 17, she had started calling me herself, not because Lauren asked her to, but because she wanted to. "Grandma," she once whispered over the phone, "Mom talks about money like it's the only thing that makes people worth listening to." I had no answer to that, because in Lauren's world, maybe it was true. What Lauren did not know was that Daniel had left behind more than memories. There were documents, accounts, and instructions I had never touched. Not because I was foolish, not because I had forgotten, but because Daniel had made me promise to wait. One night, just 3 weeks before he died, he held my hand in the hospital and said, "Chloe, there are things in place, not for greed, for protection. Don't let anyone rush you, not even Lauren." I had cried and told him not to talk that way. He squeezed my fingers with what little strength he had left. "Especially not Lauren," he said. Those words stayed with me for almost 10 years. I kept his folder in the bottom drawer of my bedroom dresser, wrapped in an old blue scarf. I never opened it unless I had to. I paid my bills from my pension and Social Security. I clipped coupons. I bought store-brand cereal. I let Lauren believe I was barely getting by because correcting her felt like inviting a storm I was not ready to face. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe silence is sometimes mistaken for weakness. The week. Everything changed. Lauren called me on a Tuesday morning. I was sitting at my kitchen table drinking coffee from Daniel's old mug when my phone lit up with her name. "Mom," she said brightly too. Brightly. "Are you free Friday?" I nearly smiled. Lauren rarely asked if I was free unless she needed something. But a mother's heart is a foolish little thing. It still hopes. "I suppose so," I said. "Is everything all right?" "Everything's fine," she replied. "I just need you to come with me to the bank. It's nothing serious. A few family financial updates. You'll just need to sign something." My fingers tightened around the mug. "What kind of something?" She laughed softly like I had asked a silly question. "Mom, don't worry about it. It's just paperwork. I'll explain when we get there." Behind her voice I heard traffic. Maybe a car door closing. Maybe her life moving fast without me in it. I looked across the kitchen at the drawer where Daniel's folder was hidden. And for the first time in years, I heard my husband's warning as clearly as if he were standing beside me. "Don't let anyone rush you, not even Lauren." Lauren's call stayed with me long after I hung up. I sat at the kitchen table with Daniel's old mug between both hands, watching the steam fade from the coffee until it turned cold. Outside, a delivery truck rolled past, rattling the front windows the way Daniel's work trailer used to do when he came home late from a job. For one foolish second, I imagined him pulling into the driveway again, wiping sawdust from his sleeves, asking me why I looked so worried. But the driveway was empty, and the only voice I had was the one he had left behind in my memory. Don't let anyone rush you. Not even Lauren. I pushed my chair back and walked down the hallway to my bedroom. The dresser was old maple, scratched at the corners, too heavy for me to move by myself. Daniel had bought it for me our second year of marriage from an estate sale in German Village. In the bottom drawer, underneath winter scarves and a box of old greeting cards, lay the blue scarf wrapped around the folder he told me never to lose. My hands trembled when I touched it. I had opened that folder only a handful of times in 10 years. There were bank envelopes inside, a letter from Daniel, a few account statements, and papers stamped with words that always made my stomach tighten. Trust beneficiary authorization, legacy file. I did not fully understand all of it. Daniel had explained as much as he could before the cancer stole his strength. But grief has a way of fogging the mind. What I understood was simple. Nothing in that folder was to be signed away casually. Nothing was to be discussed in front of Lauren unless I was ready. And I was not ready. I set the folder on the bed and sat beside it like it was a sleeping animal I was afraid to wake. Friday felt suddenly too close. I wanted to believe Lauren had good intentions. I wanted to believe she had finally realized I was getting older and maybe needed help organizing things. That is the trap of motherhood. Even after a child hurts you, your heart searches for the kindest explanation. I told myself she was busy. I told myself she was stressed. I told myself maybe she had sounded sharp because she was standing in a parking lot or rushing between meetings. But when I replayed her words, I heard something underneath the sweetness. Hurry. Don't ask. Just trust me. By Thursday evening, Lauren texted me the address of the bank branch downtown, even though she knew I had used the same bank for years. Her message said, "Please be there at 10 sharp. Bring ID. Don't forget your reading glasses." I stared at those last 5 words for a long time. Don't forget your reading glasses. It sounded helpful, but it felt like a reminder of weakness. Like she expected me to be confused. Like she had already rehearsed the part where I became the helpless old woman and she became the responsible adult. I typed back, "I'll be there." Then I deleted the words and typed, "What exactly am I signing?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, her reply came. "Nothing complicated, Mom. Just family account updates. I'll explain tomorrow. Sleep well." Sleep well. As if sleep could come after that. I spent most of the night awake listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional car passing outside. Around 2 in the morning, I got up and made chamomile tea. I stood in the kitchen and looked at the wall calendar where I still wrote appointments in blue ink. Friday had nothing on it except bank with Lauren. The words looked small, almost harmless, but I felt the way I used to feel before storms rolled across Ohio in July, when the sky turned greenish and birds went quiet. The next morning, I dressed carefully. I chose a navy cardigan, a cream blouse, and the small gold cross Daniel had given me for our 25th anniversary. I brushed my silver hair smooth and pinned it back with the pearl clip Olivia had bought me at a craft fair. Then I opened my jewelry box and took out Daniel's wedding band. I wore it on a chain sometimes when I needed courage. That morning, I slipped it over my head and tucked it under my blouse, close to my heart. Before leaving, I placed Daniel's folder in my purse. It made the purse heavier, not just with paper, but with everything I had avoided for years. Outside, the air was cool and bright. Columbus traffic was already thick when I drove toward downtown. I passed the bakery where I used to work evening shifts, though it had changed owners, and the sign was different now. I remembered walking out of that place, with flour on my sleeves at midnight, too tired to speak, but still stopping at a gas station to buy Lauren poster board for a school project. I remembered Daniel waiting up for me, rubbing my shoulders, telling me we were doing the right thing. "She'll appreciate it one day," I had said. Daniel had not answered right away. Now I wondered if he had seen something I refused to see. I arrived at the bank 15 minutes early. The building was all glass and stone, polished enough to make me conscious of my scuffed shoes. Inside, the lobby smelled faintly of coffee paper and expensive perfume. A young teller greeted me with a smile. I gave my name and said I was waiting for my daughter. The teller asked if I had an appointment. I said Lauren had arranged it. She checked the computer, then her smile tightened slightly. "Yes, Mrs. Parker. Please have a seat. Ms. Mitchell should be here shortly." Ms. Mitchell. Not Lauren Parker anymore. Not the little girl who used to write her name in purple crayon. I sat in one of the gray chairs near the windows, holding my purse on my lap with both hands. Around me, people moved with purpose. A man in a suit signed something on a tablet. A woman whispered into her phone about mortgage rates. A young couple held hands while waiting near a loan officer's door. Everyone seemed to know why they were there. I felt like I had walked into a place where decisions were made before I arrived. At 10:07, Lauren swept through the doors. She wore a white blazer, tan heels, and sunglasses pushed up into her hair. She looked beautiful, confident, and irritated. "Mom," she said, leaning down to kiss the air near my cheek. "You're early. You said 10 sharp." She glanced at her watch. "Right. Well, good. Let's get this done. I have a noon call." "No, how are you?" "No, you look nice." No mention of the fact that I had driven alone through downtown traffic with shaking hands. She turned toward the teller desk before I could stand fully, then looked back at me with that small, impatient smile I had come to dread. "Do you have your ID?" "Yes." "Reading glasses?" I swallowed. "Yes, Lauren." "Good. This shouldn't take long as we stay focused." She said we, but she meant me. At the counter, a young bank employee introduced himself as Michael Reed. He had kind eyes and a neat tie. Lauren spoke before I could. "We're here to update Family Account Authority and complete a transfer authorization." I turned my head toward her. "Transfer authorization?" Lauren did not look at me. "It's just technical language, Mom." Michael glanced between us. "Mrs. Parker, before we begin, I'll need to confirm that you understand the documents being presented." Lauren laughed lightly. "She understands enough." "I'll walk her through it." Something cold moved through me. I reached into my purse and touched the edge of Daniel's folder. "No," I said quietly. Lauren's face tightened. "No what?" I looked at Michael, then at my daughter. My voice was still soft, but it did not shake. "No one walks me through anything until I read it myself." For a moment, Lauren just stared at me, as if I had spoken a language she did not expect me to know. Then she leaned closer and whispered through her teeth, "Mom, please don't embarrass me." But the strange thing was, sitting there with Daniel's ring against my chest and his warning echoing in my mind, I realized I was not the one who should have been embarrassed. Not yet. Lauren's whisper cut deeper than if she had shouted, "Mom, please don't embarrass me." For a moment, I simply looked at her. My daughter was standing so close I could see the fine lines of makeup near her eyes, the expensive gold hoops at her ears, the smooth confidence she wore like armor. I remembered tying her shoelaces before kindergarten. I remembered holding her hair back when she had the flu. I remembered saving every spare dollar so she could walk into college feeling equal to girls whose parents had more. And now, at a bank counter in downtown Columbus, she was looking at me as if I were the inconvenience in her life. Michael Reed cleared his throat gently. Mrs. Parker has the right to review any document before signing. Lauren turned toward him with a bright, tight smile. Of course she does. I'm not saying she doesn't. I'm just saying my mother gets overwhelmed by technical language. My face warmed. A woman at the next counter glanced over. Lauren lowered her voice, but not enough. She still writes checks at the grocery store, Michael. Trust me, this will go faster if I explain it. I wanted to disappear. That is the strange cruelty of public humiliation. Even when you have done nothing wrong, shame crawls up your neck as if guilt belongs to you. Michael looked uncomfortable. I understand, but bank policy requires direct confirmation from the account holder. I am her daughter, Lauren said. I manage these things for her. No, I said before I could stop myself. Both of them looked at me. My heart beat so hard I felt it in my ears. You don't manage my things, Lauren. Her eyes sharpened. Mom. Just one word, but it carried a warning. I had heard that tone before at restaurants when I ordered slowly at family gatherings, when I repeated a story over the phone when I asked her to slow down. It was the tone that said, "Be quiet, you're making me look bad." Michael slid a stack of papers toward me. Take your time, Mrs. Parker. I reached for my reading glasses. My fingers shook slightly, and I hated that they did because Lauren noticed. She gave a short laugh and turned partly toward Michael as if inviting him to share the joke. See, this is exactly what I mean. She gets nervous over nothing. A man sitting in the waiting area looked up from his phone. The young couple near the loan office stopped whispering. The lobby seemed to grow quieter, though machines still beeped and printers still hummed behind the counter. I adjusted my glasses and looked at the first page. Transfer authorization. Account authority update. Third-party access permission. The words blurred for a moment, not because I could not understand them, but because fear rose so quickly inside me. Lauren, I said slowly. Why does this say third-party access? She sighed dramatically. Because I'm helping you. Helping me with what? With your finances. I didn't ask for help with my finances. Her cheeks flushed, but her smile stayed fixed. Mom, you don't always know what you need. That sentence landed harder than I expected. You don't always know what you need. As if age had made me a child. As if widowhood had erased my judgment. As if she had already decided my mind, my money, and my choices belonged under her control. Michael reached toward the papers. Ms. Mitchell, perhaps we should slow down. Lauren snapped her eyes toward him. There is nothing to slow down. My mother lives alone, she forgets things, and I'm trying to prevent future problems. I don't forget things, I said. The words came out small, too small. Lauren laughed again, and this time there was no softness in it. Mom, you forgot Olivia's recital time last month. Because you told me the wrong time. That is not what happened. It is exactly what happened. Her jaw tightened. This is why I didn't want to do this here. I looked down at the papers again, trying to hold on to the facts in front of me. There were lines for my signature in 3 different places. One paragraph mentioned authorization to initiate transfers. Another mentioned online access. Another allowed a named party to communicate with bank representatives regarding account activity. The named party was Lauren Mitchell, not just emergency contact, not just helper, authority. My stomach turned. I'm not signing this today, I said. Lauren went still. Excuse me, I need to take it home and read it. No, you don't. Her voice rose enough that several heads turned. Mom, this is standard paperwork. You're making it into something dramatic. Michael said Mrs. Parker is allowed to take copies for review. I know what she's allowed to do, Lauren said sharply. Then she caught herself and laughed, but the sound was brittle. I'm sorry. This has just been a very stressful process. She leaned closer to me again. Sign it, Mom. I have meetings. I don't have all day. I looked at her hand resting on the counter. Perfect manicure. Diamond bracelet. The hand of a woman who had never once asked how I managed after her father died. My own hand, by contrast, looked older than I felt. Brown spots, thin skin, a faint scar from a burn I got at the bakery years ago when I was rushing to finish a tray of cinnamon rolls before driving Lauren to a debate tournament. I had given those hands to work, to dishes, to laundry, to comforting, to holding on. Now my daughter wanted those same hands to sign away control. No, I said again. This time, louder. Lauren's face changed. The polish cracked. Do you even understand how ridiculous you sound? The lobby went quiet enough for me to hear a printer stop. Lauren, I whispered, don't. But she was angry now, and anger always made her careless. No, Mom, someone has to say it. You walk around acting like everyone is trying to take advantage of you, but you can barely keep track of your own mail. You still think Dad's old paperwork means something. You don't understand modern banking. You don't understand investments. You don't understand anything beyond coupons and church potlucks. The words struck one by one. Coupons. Church potlucks. Old paperwork. A young teller froze behind her station. The man in the suit stopped signing his tablet. Michael's face tightened with embarrassment on my behalf. I could have fought back. I could have told everyone in that lobby about the nights I worked until my feet cramped, about the tuition checks, about the loans Daniel and I never told her we took out. But pain closed my throat. Lauren mistook my silence for surrender. She reached for the pen and pushed it toward me. Just sign it. I stared at the pen. It was black with the bank's logo printed in silver. A cheap little object, but in that moment, it looked like a blade. Michael did not move. His eyes had shifted to his computer screen. Something there had caught his attention. He typed my name again, slower this time. Chloe Parker, his brow furrowed. Then he clicked once, paused, and clicked again. I saw his expression change. It was subtle, but unmistakable. Recognition. Not of my face, but of something attached to my name. He looked from the screen to me, then back to the screen. Lauren was still talking, her voice screen. Lauren was still talking, her voice sharp and impatient. This is exactly why I told them you'd be difficult. You turn simple things into a production because you don't want to admit you need help. Sharp and impatient. This is exactly why I told them you'd be difficult. You turn simple things into a production because you don't want to admit you need help. Michael straightened. Ms. Mitchell, he said carefully. I need to pause this transaction. Lauren blinked. Why? There appears to be a notice on Mrs. Parker's profile. My computer is telling me to pause this transaction. Lauren blinked. Why? There appears to be a notice on Mrs. Parker's profile. My breath caught. Lauren frowned. What kind of notice? Michael did not answer her. His tone became more formal. Mrs. Parker, may I confirm your full legal name and date of birth? A notice on Mrs. Parker's profile. My breath caught. Lauren frowned. What kind of notice? Michael did not answer her. His tone became more formal. Mrs. Parker, may I confirm your full legal name and date of birth? Lauren threw up her hands. You already have her ID. Yes, Michael said, still looking at me. But I need to verify before proceeding. I gave him the information. He entered it. Then his screen flashed something I could not see from where I stood. His face grew even more serious. "Please wait here," he said. "I need to get Mr. Henderson." Lauren's irritation turned into something harder. "Who is Mr. Henderson, our branch manager? For paperwork, for Mrs. Parker's account status." The words seemed to hang in the air. Mrs. Parker's account status. Lauren looked at me, then really looked at me as if I had suddenly become a stranger beside her. I held my purse tighter against my body. Inside it, Daniel's folder, pressed against my side, like a secret trying to breathe. Michael stepped away from the counter and disappeared through a glass door behind the teller stations. Lauren leaned toward me, her voice low and furious. "What did you do?" I looked at my daughter at the panic just beginning to flicker beneath her anger, and for the first time that morning, I did not feel small. "I didn't do anything I said." "Maybe that's what scares you." Michael Reed was gone for less than 2 minutes, but in that bank lobby, 2 minutes felt long enough for a lifetime to rearrange itself. Lauren stood beside me with her arms crossed, tapping one tan heel against the polished floor. Every tap sounded like a warning. I could feel people pretending not to watch us. The woman at the next counter had turned slightly away, but her shoulders were stiff with listening. The man in the suit kept his tablet in his hand without writing. Even the young couple near the loan office had stopped whispering. I wanted to tell them not to stare. I wanted to tell them I was not some confused old woman being difficult in public. But my mouth felt dry, and my purse felt heavy against my hip, Daniel's folder pressed inside like a heartbeat. Lauren leaned close enough that only I could hear her. "Whatever this is, you need to let me handle it." I kept my eyes on the glass door Michael had disappeared through. "No." "Mom?" "No, Lauren." Her nostrils flared. "You don't even know what's going on. Neither do you." She gave a short, humorless laugh. "Don't start acting mysterious. It doesn't suit you." That should have hurt more than it did. Maybe there is a point in humiliation when pain stops coming in sharp pieces and becomes one quiet, solid thing inside you. I had reached that point. Before Lauren could say anything else, the glass door opened. Michael returned first, walking a half step behind a tall man with silver hair, a charcoal suit, and the kind of calm expression people get after decades of handling other people's emergencies. He looked to be in his early 60s, maybe a little younger, with wireframe glasses and a navy tie. His eyes moved across the lobby, landed on me, and softened with recognition. Not confusion, not suspicion, recognition. "Mrs. Parker," he said. My stomach tightened. "Yes." He came forward and extended his hand not to Lauren, but to me. "I'm Robert Henderson, branch manager. I knew your husband, Daniel Parker. The whole world seemed to go still around that name. I had heard Daniel's name spoken by neighbors, church friends, old clients, even doctors. But hearing it in that bank at that moment felt like a door opening in a house I thought I knew. I took his hand. "You knew Daniel." "Yes, Mom," he said gently. "Many years ago. He was a respected client here." Lauren shifted beside me. "Excuse me, but what does that have to do with the paperwork we're trying to complete?" Robert turned to her with professional politeness. "Ms. Mitchell, I understand you came in regarding account authority updates. Before any transaction or authorization can proceed, I need to review a protected file associated with Mrs. Parker's profile." Lauren blinked. "Protected file. Yes. For my mother." "Yes." Her laugh came too quickly. "There must be some mistake. My mother has a basic checking account, maybe a small savings account. Nothing that requires a branch manager." Robert did not react, but Michael's eyes dropped to the counter. I felt my cheeks burn again, not because I was ashamed of what Lauren said, but because she had said it so easily. Like my smallness was a fact everyone should understand. Robert looked at me. "Mrs. Parker, may we step into my office for privacy?" Lauren answered before I could. "That won't be necessary. I'm her daughter." Robert's expression remained calm. "I appreciate that, but I need Mrs. Parker's permission." Lauren's jaw tightened. "Permission for what?" "To access the legacy file." The word hit me like a bell. Legacy. Daniel had written that word on one of the envelopes in the folder. Legacy instructions. Legacy client. Legacy account. My fingers closed around the strap of my purse. Lauren looked from Robert to me. "Legacy file," she repeated. "Mom, what is he talking about?" I wanted to say I didn't know. Part of me truly didn't. I knew the file existed, but I did not know what Robert would find in the system. Daniel had always handled the bigger financial pieces because he was better with numbers, but he had never treated me like I was incapable. He had explained things patiently. He had left notes. He had trusted me. Lauren had not. That difference suddenly mattered more than anything. Robert waited. "Mrs. Parker." I swallowed. "You can open it." His voice lowered. "For security reasons, I'll need your verbal confirmation that you authorize me to view the protected file in your presence." "I authorize it." Lauren stepped forward. "And I should be present too." Robert turned to her again. "Only if Mrs. Parker wishes." The lobby was so quiet now that I could hear the faint buzz of fluorescent lights overhead. Lauren looked at me with an expression I knew well. It was not pleading. It was command disguised as expectation. For 68 years of my life, I had been trained by love to make other people comfortable. I had softened truths, swallowed questions, smiled through disrespect. But Daniel's ring rested beneath my blouse, warm against my skin, and I thought of his hospital room, his tired hand closing around mine. Don't let anyone rush you. Not even Lauren. I looked at Robert. "I would like to speak with you privately first." Lauren's face went pale with anger. "Privately?" "Yes." "I'm your daughter. I know who you are." Her mouth opened, then closed. Robert gestured toward his office. "This way, Mrs. Parker." I followed him past the teller stations. Each step felt strange, as if my body were walking into a future my heart had not caught up with yet. Behind me, Lauren's heels clicked sharply against the floor. "Mom, this is ridiculous." Robert paused. "Ms. Mitchell, please remain in the lobby." "Absolutely not." His voice stayed polite, but something firm entered it. "This is a confidential matter." Lauren looked around, realizing people were watching her now, not with sympathy, but suspicion. That changed her posture. She straightened, lifted her chin, and crossed her arms again, as if she had chosen to wait rather than been told to. "Fine," she said. "But this better not take long." Robert opened the office door for me. Inside the room was simple a desk, 2 chairs framed certificates, a small American flag near the window, and a photograph of what looked like his family at a lake. He closed the door, gently muting the lobby sounds. For the first time since I entered that bank, I could breathe. "Please sit," he said. I sat slowly, placing my purse on my lap. Robert took the chair behind his desk, but he did not immediately touch his computer. Instead, he folded his hands and looked at me with a kind of respect that nearly broke me. "Mrs. Parker, before I open this file, I want you to understand something. Your husband was very deliberate about how this information was protected." My throat tightened. Daniel always thought ahead. "Yes," Robert said. "He did." I looked down at my purse. He told me there were things in place. I never wanted to look too closely. After he died, it hurt too much. Robert nodded. That is understandable. He did. I looked down at my purse. He told me there were things in place. I never wanted to look too closely. After he died, it hurt too much. After he died, it hurt too much. Robert nodded. That is understandable. Lauren thinks I don't understand anything. The words slipped out before I could stop them. He was quiet for a moment. With respect, Mrs. Parker Daniel did not seem to share that opinion. Nodded. That is understandable. Lauren thinks I don't understand anything. The words slipped out before I could stop them. He was quiet for a moment. With respect, Mrs. Parker Daniel did not seem to share that opinion. Tears pressed behind my eyes. Robert turned to his computer. I'm going to access the file now. You may see a security prompt. It may ask for information only you would know. All right? He typed carefully. My name appeared on the screen. Chloe Parker. Then Daniels. Then a page loaded with a red banner across the top, private legacy file. Client authorization required. My breath caught. Robert glanced at me. Do you recognize the phrase Daniel's safe harbor? The room tilted slightly. Daniel's safe harbor. I had not heard those words in 10 years. It was what Daniel called our home when Lauren was little and afraid of storms. He would gather us in the hallway, light a candle, and say, "Nothing gets past safe harbor." It was what Daniel called our home when Lauren was little and afraid of storms. He would gather us in the hallway, light a candle, and say, "Nothing gets past safe harbor." My voice broke. Yes, I recognize it. Robert typed the phrase. Another screen opened. Lines of information appeared more than I could take in at once. Trust account, investment portfolio, property protections, sealed instructions, beneficiary conditions. Robert's expression grew even more serious as he read. Mrs. Parker, he said quietly, this file is much more extensive than a standard account note. I gripped my purse. What does that mean? He looked at me then toward the closed office door where Lauren waited outside. It means your husband left very specific instructions. And based on what Ms. Mitchell tried to have you sign today, I'm very glad Mr. Reed noticed the alert before anything was processed. A chill moved through me. Was I about to sign away something important? Robert did not answer immediately. That silence told me enough. Then he turned the monitor slightly so I could see the first page of the hidden file. At the top was Daniel's name. Below it was mine. And beneath both, in bold letters, were words that made my hands go cold. Sole authority reserved for Chloe Parker. No transfer access or account control may be granted under pressure, coercion, or third-party influence. My eyes filled until the screen blurred. Daniel had protected me, even from the person I loved most. For a moment, I could not speak. The words on Robert Henderson's computer screen seemed too heavy to belong to me. Sole authority reserved for Chloe Parker. No transfer access or account control may be granted under pressure, coercion, or third-party influence. Pressure, coercion, third-party influence. Those were not gentle words. Those were warning words. Legal words. Words Daniel must have chosen carefully, knowing there might come a day when someone stood too close to me, pushed a pen into my hand, and called it help. I covered my mouth with my fingers. Robert gave me time. He did not rush to explain. He did not fill the silence with banking terms. He simply sat there, patient and respectful, as if he understood that I was not just reading a file. I was hearing my husband protect me from beyond the grave. My Daniel wrote that I whispered. Robert nodded. The file was established under his instruction with legal counsel present. I was not the manager at the time, but I was a senior associate assigned to help process part of the account structure. I remember him clearly. What did he say? Robert looked down for a moment, as if choosing what was appropriate to repeat. He said he wanted to make sure his wife would never be treated like a signature instead of a person. A sound came out of me that was half laugh, half sob. That was Daniel, plain spoken, tender, stronger than he ever let people know. Robert clicked to the next section. Mrs. Parker, I need to be careful about how much detail I share until we complete a full identity verification and review. But I can confirm that this protected file is connected to a trust account, several investment holdings, and property-related documents. I stared at him. Property-related? Yes. My house. Your house is included in the protected documents, but it does not appear to be the only property interest listed. My hands went cold around my purse. Daniel had owned small pieces of land over the years, usually connected to work. Lots he had bought cheap parcels attached to remodeling deals, one old warehouse he used for storage before he got sick. I never thought much about them after he died. Daniel had always said, "It's paperwork, Chloe, not worry." But apparently, paperwork had become something much larger. Robert continued, There is also an investment portfolio tied to the Parker Family Trust. The Parker Family Trust, I repeated slowly. Yes. I thought that was just something Daniel set up for emergencies. It may have begun that way, Robert said. But according to these records, it was maintained and protected for long-term use. The important point is this: you are the sole controlling party. Not Miss Mitchell, not any other relative. You. The word "you" landed softly, then spread through me with a strange warmth. For so long, Lauren had made me feel like a faded corner of her life. A woman to be managed. A woman to be corrected. A woman who needed help understanding the world she had already survived. But on that screen, in Daniel's careful planning, I was not helpless. I was trusted. Robert opened another tab. There is a sealed instruction letter attached to the file. I cannot open that without your direct consent. My heart thudded. From Daniel. Yes, it appears to be addressed to you. I looked toward the office door. Through the frosted glass, I could see Lauren's figure moving in the lobby. She was pacing, one arm crossed over her waist, the other hand holding her phone. Even blurred, I knew her posture. Angry, impatient, frightened, though she would never call it that. Can Lauren know about this? I asked. Only what you permit her to know, Robert said. That sentence felt almost impossible. Only what I permitted. Lauren had always entered my life like she owned the rooms. She opened my refrigerator without asking, rearranged my doctor appointments, corrected my stories, told waiters what I meant to order, spoke over me in front of family. And because I loved her, because I feared losing what little closeness remained, I had let her. But now a bank manager was telling me the boundary had always been mine to draw. I took a slow breath. Please, open the letter. Robert clicked a prompt and turned the monitor slightly toward me. For security, I'll ask you one more verification question. The system asks, what phrase did Daniel Parker use to describe your home during storms? Tears blurred my vision again. Safe harbor, I said. The file unlocked. A scanned letter appeared on the screen, Daniel's handwriting dark and slightly slanted, just as I remembered. I leaned forward, and the first line nearly stopped my heart. My Chloe. If this file is being opened, then the day I feared may have finally come. I pressed my hand to my chest, feeling his wedding ring beneath my blouse. Robert looked away slightly, giving me privacy, while I read. I could only take in pieces at first. I have loved our daughter, but I have also seen what pride and money can do to her heart. Do not confuse being needed with being respected. Do not sign anything because someone makes you feel old guilty or afraid. Everything listed here was built to protect your peace first. A tear slipped down my cheek and fell onto my hand. Daniel had known. Not everything, maybe. Not this exact moment. Not Lauren standing at a counter mocking me in front of strangers. But he had known enough. He had seen the impatience in her voice before I let myself name it. He had noticed how Lauren asked about inheritance while he was still fighting for breath. He had heard the little comments I forgave too quickly. I kept reading. Lauren may receive help only if you decide it is given from love, not pressure. She is not to control, transfer, borrow against, or access these assets without your willing consent. Under no circumstance should Chloe be made to feel that motherhood requires surrendering her security. I closed my eyes. For nearly 10 years, I had carried guilt for keeping Daniel's folder tucked away. I wondered if I had failed him by not understanding every page. But now I realized the promise had never been about understanding every financial detail. It had been about not surrendering myself. A sharp knock struck the office door. I jumped. Lauren's voice came through before Robert could answer. "Mom, what is taking so long?" Robert's face tightened slightly. "Please wait, Miss Mitchell. I need to know what's going on. This is a confidential meeting. She is my mother, and she is my client." The silence after that was electric. My client. Not your dependent. Not your burden. Not your confused little old mother. My client. Lauren did not answer right away. Then her heels clicked away from the door. Robert turned back to me. Mrs. Parker, based on what I've seen the documents Ms. Mitchell brought today, would have granted her significant access. If signed, they could have allowed communication privileges, transfer requests, and online management permissions. My stomach twisted. Could she have moved money? With additional steps, possibly. At minimum, she would have gained enough access to create serious risk. I stared at the desk. The polished wood reflected the window light like water. Lauren had told me it was nothing complicated. Just family updates. Just paperwork. Just sign it. A sadness opened inside me so deep. It felt older than the morning, older than the bank, older even than Daniel's death. It was the grief of realizing someone you love has been walking toward betrayal slowly enough that you kept calling it misunderstanding. "What happens now?" I asked. Robert's voice softened. "Now nothing moves unless you authorize it. I recommend we suspend today's transaction copy, the attempted forms for review, and schedule a private meeting with legal support if you choose. Will Lauren be told? She will be told that the transaction cannot proceed. Anything beyond that is up to you." I looked again at Daniel's letter, at the words he had left like a handrail in the dark. Do not confuse being needed with being respected. For the first time that morning, I understood the difference. "Mr. Henderson," I said, wiping my face carefully. "I want her brought in." He studied me. "Are you sure?" "No," I admitted, "but I'm ready." Robert nodded, then rose and opened the office door. Lauren was standing just outside, her phone clutched in one hand, her face tight with irritation. Finally, she said, "Can we finish now?" I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, and behind her polished clothes, behind the impatience and arrogance, I saw something she had not meant to show. Fear. Robert stepped aside. "Ms. Mitchell, please come in and have a seat." Lauren walked into the office like she still owned the room, but this time, she didn't. Lauren sat down across from Robert Henderson as if the chair had personally insulted her. She crossed one leg over the other, placed her phone face down on the edge of the desk, and gave me a quick look that said this had already gone too far. I knew that look. It was the same one she used when Olivia spoke too honestly at dinner, when a waiter made a mistake, when I asked a question in front of her friends. It was the look Lauren gave people when she wanted them to shrink. But I did not shrink. Not this time. Robert returned to his chair and folded his hands calmly. Ms. Mitchell, I want to be clear before we proceed. This meeting concerns Mrs. Parker's protected financial file. She has given permission for you to be present for this conversation, but she remains the sole authority regarding what is discussed and what actions are taken. Lauren let out a breath through her nose. Fine. Can someone please explain why a simple account update has turned into some secret investigation? It is not an investigation, Robert said. It is a review of a protected legacy file. There's that word again? Lauren said, looking at me. Legacy. Mom, what did Dad do? The way she said Dad made something in me tighten. Not with grief this time, but with memory. Daniel Parker had loved Lauren. No one could ever take that truth away from him. He taught her how to ride a bicycle in the church parking lot. He built her a dollhouse with tiny windows that opened and closed. He sat through every school concert, every debate tournament, every graduation ceremony clapping like she had hung the moon. But Daniel had also seen what I refused to see. He had noticed the way Lauren's gratitude faded once she received what she wanted. He noticed how quickly she blamed others when plans did not go her way. He noticed how she could make kindness sound like weakness and generosity sound like obligation. I still remembered one night years before Daniel got sick, when Lauren came home from college during spring break. She had just received a credit card bill much higher than she admitted. Daniel sat at the kitchen table, invoice in hand, his work shirt still dusty from a basement remodel. Lauren, he said we can help you this time, but you need to understand this cannot become a habit. Lauren rolled her eyes. Dad, it's not like you're poor. Daniel's face changed. Not anger, not exactly. Disappointment. You don't know what it costs to build a life, he told her. She shrugged. That's why I'm trying to build a better one. I remembered stepping in too quickly, smoothing everything over, telling Daniel she was young and stressed. I even wrote the check myself the next morning because I did not want the argument to continue. That was my pattern. Lauren pushed. Daniel warned. I softened. Years later in his hospital room, I finally understood that my softness had not always been love. Sometimes it had been fear. Robert turned the monitor slightly, not enough for Lauren to read every detail, but enough to show that the file existed. Your father created this structure before his passing. It names Mrs. Parker as the sole controlling party. Lauren frowned. That doesn't make sense. If it's a family trust, I'm family. Robert remained composed. Family connection does not automatically grant authority, but I'm his daughter. Yes, and am her only child. Yes. So why would I not have access? There it was. Not sadness, not confusion, access. I felt Daniel's letter like a warm weight in the room. Robert glanced at me silently, asking permission to continue. I nodded. There are instructions attached to the file, he said. The purpose appears to be protection, not exclusion. Lauren gave a short laugh. Protection from what? The room went quiet. Robert did not answer. I did. From pressure, I said. Lauren turned slowly toward me. Excuse me, from being rushed, from being made to feel guilty, from signing something I don't understand just because someone tells me I'm too old to ask questions. Her mouth tightened. I never said you were too old. You said I didn't understand anything beyond coupons and church potlucks. Color rose in her face. I was frustrated. You were cruel. The words surprised both of us. Lauren stared at me as if I had slapped her. Maybe in a way I had. Not with anger, but with truth. For the first time that day, she had no immediate response. Robert opened another document. Mrs. Parker, there is a second letter. This one is marked as a conditional instruction summary. It is not personal in the same way as the first, but it outlines Mr. Parker's wishes regarding future assistance to Lauren Mitchell and Olivia Mitchell. Lauren leaned forward. Olivia. Why is my daughter in this? Because Daniel loved his granddaughter, I said quietly. Lauren looked at me. Olivia was 7 when Dad died. He still loved her. I'm aware of that, Mom. No, I said. I don't think you are. Her eyes flashed. What is that supposed to mean? I saw Olivia at 12 years old sitting beside me on the porch, asking why her mother got so angry when people disagreed. I saw her at 15 quietly helping me clear Thanksgiving dishes while Lauren discussed kitchen renovations with guests and never once asked if my knees hurt. I saw her last Christmas slipping a handwritten card into my coat pocket because Lauren had said gifts were too much trouble this year. Olivia noticed love. Lauren measured usefulness. Robert read from the instruction summary, careful not to reveal exact numbers. Mr. Parker stated that distributions or assistance to Lauren Mitchell were not to be automatic. He requested that Mrs. Parker consider character conduct, respect toward family, and evidence of financial responsibility before granting any major access or benefit. Lauren's face went still. What she said. Robert repeated gently. Distributions were not to be automatic. She looked at me, and this time her confidence cracked wider. Mom, you can't possibly agree with that. I did not answer right away, because the truth was painful. For years, I had wanted to believe Lauren's heart was only buried under ambition. I told myself, if she got the house she wanted, the promotion she wanted, the status she wanted, she would finally relax enough to be kind. But every time she received more, she became less grateful. Daniel had seen the pattern, and he had written it down. He wrote a phrase Robert said, looking at me again. Mrs. Parker, would you like me to read it? My chest tightened. Yes. Robert looked at the screen. Character before inheritance. Lauren blinked rapidly. That sounds like him. Her voice softened for the first time, and for one brief second, I saw the little girl Daniel used to carry on his shoulders. The one who cried when he left for long jobs. The one who saved him the biggest cookie from school bake sales. Then the softness vanished. So what she said. Dad was sick. He was emotional. People say dramatic things when they're dying. The words struck me so hard I gripped the arms of my chair. Robert's expression chilled slightly. These documents were prepared while Mr. Parker was legally competent and witnessed through proper channels. Lauren looked annoyed. I'm not challenging the paperwork, but she was. In every way that mattered, she was. She turned to me. Mom, listen to me. Dad may have set this up, but he would never want you hiding money from your own daughter. Hiding? I repeated. Yes. Hiding. Letting me struggle while you sit on some secret account. The air left my lungs. Struggle, I said. Lauren's eyes darted toward Robert, then back to me. You don't know what it costs to maintain a life now. Mortgage. Olivia's school expenses, my business investments, everything. You sit in that old house acting like simple living makes you morally superior. I live simply because peace matters to me. No, you live simply because Dad handled everything and left you comfortable while the rest of us work. That was when Daniel's warning became more than a memory. It became a dividing line. I looked at my daughter and saw clearly and terribly that she was not shocked by the existence of the money because she feared for me. She was shocked because she had not known it was available. And that meant the bank paperwork had not been about helping me prepare for the future. It had been about opening a door. Robert closed the letter file and folded his hands again. Ms. Mitchell, the paperwork you brought today would have created access that conflicts directly with the protective intent of this file. Lauren sat back. I didn't know this file existed. No, Robert said. You did not. Something in the way he said it made her eyes narrow. What does that mean? He did not answer right away, but I noticed his gaze shift toward another tab on the computer screen. A tab he had not opened yet. A tab with the word loan visible in the title. A chill moved through me. Lauren noticed it too. Her face changed. Not anger this time. Fear. Robert looked at me. Mrs. Parker, before we go further, there is another matter connected to your name that I believe we need to review. Lauren stood too quickly. I think we're done here. And in that instant, I knew Daniel's hidden file had only opened the first door. Something darker was waiting behind the next one. Lauren stood so quickly that the legs of her chair scraped against the office floor. I think we're done here, she said again, but her voice did not sound like command anymore. It sounded like someone trying to close a door before smoke escaped. Robert Henderson remained seated. Miss Mitchell, you are free to step out, but Mrs. Parker's account review is not finished. My mother doesn't need an account review, Lauren snapped. She needs her daughter to help her make practical decisions. I looked at her hands. They were clenched now, the perfect manicure pressing into her palms. Lauren, I said quietly, sit down. Her head turned toward me. What did you just say? I said, sit down. For a second, I saw shock pass across her face. It almost would have been funny if my heart had not been breaking. My daughter was not used to hearing firmness from me. She was used to my softness, my apologies, my habit of making space for her anger. But Daniel's letter was still open in my mind, each line stronger than the last. Do not confuse being needed with being respected. Lauren slowly lowered herself back into the chair. Fine, she said. Let's hear whatever dramatic thing comes next. Robert clicked another tab on his screen. I noticed his shoulders shift slightly the way a person braces before delivering bad news. Mrs. Parker, he said this item is separate from the legacy file, but it appears in connection with your personal identifying information. My what? Your name, date of birth, address, and social security information were attached to a loan application. Lauren's face changed so quickly that I almost missed it. Her eyes widened, then narrowed. Her mouth parted slightly before she pressed her lips together. A loan application, I asked. Robert nodded. Yes. I never applied for a loan. I understand. Ickly that I almost missed it. Her eyes widened, then narrowed. Her mouth parted slightly before she pressed her lips together. A loan application, I asked. Robert nodded. Yes. I never applied for a loan. I understand. Lauren laughed, but it came out dry. Mom probably forgot. She forgets paperwork all the time. I turned toward her slowly. There it was again. Her oldest weapon. Forgetfulness. Confusion. Age. Anytime I questioned her, she reached for the same accusation that my mind could not be trusted. But something about this was different. Robert did not look at Lauren. He looked at me. Mrs. Parker, do you recall authorizing Ms. Mitchell or any business entity connected to her to use you as a guarantor? A guarantor. My stomach dropped. No. Lauren leaned forward. It was just preliminary paperwork. Robert's gaze moved to her. Then you are familiar with it. Silence, the kind that exposes more than words. Lauren looked away. I mean, I know what she's talking about generally. Mom and I have discussed family planning. We have not discussed any loan, I said. Mom, don't make absolute statements when you don't remember every conversation. I would remember being asked to guarantee a loan. Would you? She said sharply. That one question filled the room with years of insult. Would you remember? Would you understand? Would you even know I felt heat rise behind my eyes, but I refused to cry in front of her? Not then. Robert printed several pages from the machine behind his desk. The sound of paper sliding out felt strangely loud. He collected them, placed them in a folder, and laid it closed on his desk. For privacy and security reasons, he said, I cannot provide unrestricted details until our internal team completes a formal review. But I can confirm enough to tell you that this matter is concerning. Lauren sat stiffly. Concerning how Robert paused. The application included Mrs. Parker as a personal guarantor for a business credit line associated with Mitchell Strategic Media, LLC. I had never heard the full name before, but I knew Lauren had been talking for months about starting something on the side. Consulting, branding, private clients. She had mentioned investors once at Thanksgiving, then changed the subject when Olivia asked questions. Lauren, I whispered, you used my name for your business. Her face flushed. I didn't use you. I listed me as family support. I stared at her. Without asking me, you would have said no. The room went still. She seemed to realize too late what she had admitted. Robert's expression did not change, but his voice became very measured. Ms. Mitchell, I advise you to be careful with your wording. Lauren pointed toward him. Don't talk to me like I'm a criminal. No one used that word. You're implying it. You brought documents today granting yourself account access, Robert said. And now we are reviewing a previous application connected to Mrs. Parker's identity that she states she did not authorize. That requires caution. Lauren looked at me with anger sharpened by fear. Mom, tell him this is a misunderstanding. I could barely breathe, because beneath my grief another feeling was beginning to rise. Not rage, recognition. Suddenly, little moments from the past arranged themselves like pieces of a puzzle. Lauren asking me to text her a photo of my driver's license because she was updating emergency records. Lauren calling to confirm the last 4 digits of my social security number because she was helping with insurance forms. Lauren insisting I sign a blank authorization for a family document she said she would fill out later. I had refused that last one, but I remembered the irritation in her voice. How many times had she stepped close to the line before crossing it? How much was the loan? I asked. Lauren stood again. This is none of your business. I almost laughed. My name is on it. It didn't go through. Robert's eyes moved sharply toward her. I turned cold. It didn't go through, I repeated. Lauren froze. Robert opened the folder, slightly scanning the top page. The application was not approved at the level requested. It appears to have been flagged for additional verification. Because Dad's stupid file interfered with everything, Lauren muttered. The sentence was quiet, but not quiet enough. My heart seemed to stop. Robert looked up. Ms. Mitchell. Lauren pressed a hand to her forehead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. Yes, I said softly. You did. Her eyes filled suddenly, but I could not tell whether the tears were shame or panic. Mom, you don't understand the pressure I've been under. There it is again, I said. What? You telling me I don't understand. Her tears hardened. Because you don't. You live in that little house with no mortgage, no ambition, no real expenses. You don't know what it feels like to have people depending on you. I stared at my daughter, and something inside me cracked cleanly. No real expenses, I said. You are my expense, Lauren. Your tuition, your clothes, your rent, your braces, your camps, your emergencies, your dreams, Your pride? Your life was built on expenses your father and I paid quietly so you could stand in rooms like this and pretend you built yourself alone. Her face went pale. For once, she did not interrupt. Robert looked down, giving us the dignity of privacy he could not fully provide. I turned back to him. You said additional verification was required. What did they find? He hesitated. Mrs. Parker, I need to involve our fraud review and legal compliance team before making any formal statement. Lauren's head snapped toward him. Fraud Robert did not soften the next sentence. There appears to be a signature attached to the application that does not match Mrs. Parker's verified signature on file. The room blurred. A signature. My signature, but not mine. I gripped the edge of the chair. May I see it? Robert's face softened with sympathy. I can show you enough to confirm whether you recognize it, but I will need to document your response. He turned one page toward me. There near the bottom was my name, Chloe Parker. The letters tried to imitate my handwriting, but they leaned too sharply. The C looped wrong. The P in Parker was too tall. Whoever had written it knew enough to copy, but not enough to become me. My stomach rolled. That is not my signature, I said. Lauren whispered, Mom. I did not look at her. Robert nodded once solemnly. I'll make note of that. The office felt colder than before. Somewhere beyond the door bank, life continued. Tellers greeted customers, phones rang, printers hummed. But inside that room, my world had narrowed to a false signature, and the daughter who could not meet my eyes. For years, I had feared that knowing the truth would destroy what little family I had left. But sitting there staring at the forged version of my own name, I realized something worse. The truth had not destroyed my family. It had only revealed what dishonesty had already broken. Robert Henderson placed the page back into the folder and closed it with both hands as if even he understood that leaving my forged signature exposed would be too cruel. But I had already seen it. My name, my identity, my life. Written by someone else's hand and used as a key to a door I never agreed to open. The room felt smaller after that. Lauren sat with her shoulders stiff, her eyes fixed somewhere between the desk and the floor. She had always been good at speaking when she felt powerful. She could correct a waiter, challenge a contractor, argue with customer service, lead a boardroom presentation without blinking. But now, with that folder lying between us, silence seemed to have found her. I waited for her to say it was a mistake. I waited for her to look at me and say, Mom, I would never do that. But she did not. Robert spoke carefully. Mrs. Parker, I'm going to ask you a few direct questions. Your responses will become part of our internal record. I nodded, though my throat felt tight. Did you authorize Lauren Mitchell or anyone acting on behalf of Mitchell Strategic Media, LLC, to list you as a guarantor? No. Did you sign any document related to that application? No. Did you give verbal permission for your signature to be used? No. Did you provide copies of your identification for the purpose of applying for business credit? I closed my eyes. No. I sent Lauren a picture of my driver's license months ago because she told me she was updating emergency family records. Robert wrote something down. Lauren finally spoke. That's not fair. I turned toward her. What part isn't fair? You make it sound like I stole it from you. You used it without telling me. I was trying to keep everything together. What? Everything? She pressed her lips together. Robert said, Ms. Mitchell, I strongly recommend that you allow Mrs. Parker to answer without interruption. Lauren gave him a cold look. I don't need legal advice from a bank manager. No, he said evenly. But you may need legal advice. The words settled over the room like frost. Lauren's face drained of color. Are you threatening me? I am informing you that the bank has procedures when a customer disputes a signature and states that personal information was used without authorization. I'm her daughter. That does not override consent. Consent. Such a simple word. Such a powerful one. For years, I had treated Lauren's needs like permission. If she needed money, I gave. If she needed time, I adjusted. If she needed me quiet, I swallowed my hurt. Somewhere along the way, she must have mistaken my love for permanent consent. But I had not consented to this. Robert opened another window on his computer, then stopped. Mrs. Parker, the application was flagged before final approval. However, the attempted credit line amount was significant. How significant, I asked. Lauren snapped. You don't need to know that. I looked at her. If my name is on it, I need to know everything. Robert answered. The requested amount was $280,000. The number did not feel real at first. It floated in the room too large to attach itself to my life. $280,000. I thought of my little brick house, store-brand cereal, coupons clipped on Sunday afternoons, turning down the heat in winter and wearing Daniel's old sweaters so the gas bill would stay manageable. Meanwhile, my daughter had placed my name beside a number I could not imagine repaying if something went wrong. I whispered, Lauren. Her face twisted. It wasn't supposed to affect you. How could it not affect me? The business was going to grow. I had projections. I had clients lined up. I only needed backing to look credible. To look credible, I repeated. Yes, that's how the world works, Mom. People don't take you seriously unless there's money behind you. And you decided my name was money behind you. Her eyes flashed. You had it. I sat back as if she had pushed me. There it was. The truth beneath all the excuses. You had it. Not I'm sorry. Not I was wrong. Not I panicked. You had it. Robert's jaw tightened, but he stayed silent. Lauren's eyes filled, and this time the tears fell. I knew Dad left something. I didn't know how much, but I knew you weren't as helpless as you acted. I never acted helpless. You let everyone think you were barely getting by. You assumed that. You never corrected me. Because every time money came up, you treated me like an obstacle. Lauren stood again, then sat back down, trapped by the reality of the room. Do you know what it's like to be me? To have people expecting success all the time? To have Olivia looking at colleges, a mortgage, a husband who thinks everything is fine because I keep it fine. I blinked. Is Scott involved? She looked away. Scott Mitchell. Lauren's husband had always seemed pleasant but distant. The kind of man who disappeared into work and golf and let Lauren manage the family image. I never knew whether he feared her temper or simply preferred not to look too closely. Lauren, I said, does your husband know about this loan? She did not answer. That was answer enough. Robert made another note. I felt the betrayal widening beyond me. This was not just about a bank document. This was a life built on appearances, and Lauren had been using everyone around her as scaffolding. Mom, she said softer now, I was going to tell you. When it was approved, when everything was stable, you were going to tell me after my name was already attached, I was going to explain. No, Lauren. You were going to present it as something already done, so I would feel guilty refusing. Her mouth opened, but no words came. For once, I had described her strategy before she could dress it up. Robert turned slightly toward me. Mrs. Parker, at this point, the bank will need to place a formal hold on any related pending activity. We will also recommend that you file an identity theft affidavit and speak with independent legal counsel. Lauren inhaled sharply. Identity theft. Are you serious? Robert's tone remained professional. That is one possible category for review when personal information and signature authorization are disputed. She's not filing anything against me, Lauren said. I looked at my daughter. The strange thing was beneath all the anger and shock I still loved her. That was the part no one tells you about betrayal. Love does not vanish at the moment of harm. It stays wounded and confused, looking for the person it remembers. I still remembered Lauren as a child, asleep in the back seat after school plays. I remembered her bringing me dandelions in a paper cup. I remembered her crying when Daniel's hair fell out during chemo, resting her head against his hospital bed, and whispering, "Daddy, don't leave." That girl was still somewhere in front of me, but so was this woman who had forged my name. And love could no longer be allowed to blind me to damage. I don't know what I'm filing yet, I said, but I am not pretending this didn't happen. Lauren's tears stopped. So you're choosing paperwork over your daughter? No, I said. You chose paperwork over your mother. The words hit her hard. She looked away. Robert closed the file and stood. I'm going to ask our compliance officer to join us by phone, Mrs. Parker. I also recommend freezing any new access requests connected to your profile. Yes, I said. Do that. Lauren stared at me. Mom. I did not answer. Robert stepped out of the office, leaving the door slightly open. Through the gap, I could see Michael Reed at the counter, speaking quietly to another employee. The lobby was no longer staring, but I felt the weight of what had happened spreading through the building like a current. Lauren leaned toward me. Please don't ruin my life. I looked at her tired face, her expensive blazer, her frightened eyes, and for the first time, I did not rush to comfort her. You should have thought about my life, I said, before you signed my name. She flinched. Robert returned with another woman on speakerphone from the bank's compliance department. Her voice was calm, precise, and serious. She asked questions. Robert answered. I confirmed again that the signature was not mine. Then came the sentence that made Lauren cover her face with both hands. We will preserve the application signature page, IP submission, record identification documents, and related communications as evidence pending review. Evidence, not misunderstanding, not family drama. Evidence. Lauren whispered. Oh my God. I sat very still, feeling Daniel's ring against my chest. The hidden file had protected my money, but now the bank had uncovered something much more painful. It had protected the truth. The compliance officer's voice remained calm through the speaker, but every word seemed to tighten the air around us. We will preserve the application signature page IP submission record identification documents and related communications as evidence pending review. Evidence. Lauren lowered her hands from her face and stared at the phone as if the woman inside it had personally betrayed her. This is insane, she whispered. This is my family. The compliance officer paused. Ms. Mitchell, because you are involved in the disputed documents, I will direct all further questions to Mrs. Parker and branch management. Lauren's mouth fell open. You can't just shut me out. Robert Henderson leaned forward. Ms. Mitchell, you were invited into this office at Mrs. Parker's request. That invitation does not give you control over the review. Lauren turned to me, and for the first time that morning, she looked less like the powerful daughter who had mocked me at the counter, and more like a frightened child, caught with something she could not explain away. Mom, she said softly, please. That word almost broke me. Please. How many times had that word worked on me? Please, Mom, just this once. Please, Mom, I really need help. Please, Mom, don't make this harder. Please, Mom, you know I'm under pressure. That word had cost me money, sleep, dignity, and silence. It had made me bend when I should have stood. It had made me confuse rescue with love. But this time, the word arrived too late. I looked at Robert. What do I need to do to stop everything Lauren gasped. Stop everything. Yes, I said. Everything. Robert nodded. We can immediately deny the account authority update attempted today. We can also place enhanced verification on your banking profile, freeze any new third-party access requests, and begin a formal dispute regarding the business credit application. Do it, I said. Lauren stood up so fast her chair rolled backward and hit the wall. No. The word cracked through the room. The compliance officer went silent. Robert's eyes sharpened. Lauren pointed at me. You do not understand what you're doing. There it was again. That same sentence wearing different clothes. I did not understand. I did not remember. I did not know. I did not matter unless I obeyed. Something rose in me then, not loud at first, but steady. A strength I had not felt since before Daniel died. Maybe it had always been there, buried under grief and motherhood, and the old fear of being abandoned by my only child. I stood slowly. Lauren blinked, startled, as if my standing changed the size of me. I understand perfectly, I said. My voice was quiet, but it carried. I understand that you brought me here today to sign papers you did not fully explain. I understand that those papers would have given you access to accounts your father protected for me. I understand that my name appeared on a loan application I never approved. I understand that someone tried to copy my signature. And I understand that when I asked questions, you mocked me in front of strangers. Lauren's face hardened because truth had nowhere to go but into shame, and shame often comes out looking like anger. I was trying to save my business, she snapped. You were willing to risk my security to save your image. My image, she said bitterly. You think this is about image, yes. She laughed once, sharp and ugly. You have no idea what it's like to be judged. I almost could not believe she said it. No idea what it was like to be judged. I thought of the lobby outside, the customers turning. Lauren's voice slicing through the air. My hands trembling over documents while she told a bank employee I understood nothing beyond coupons and church potlucks. I looked at her and said, You judged me before everyone else had the chance. The room went quiet. Even Lauren seemed struck by that. I continued, and now my voice shook not from weakness, but from all the years pressing upward at once. You judged me when I wore the same coat for 11 winters so your tuition could be paid on time. You judged my little house, but that house held you every time you came home broken. You judged my coupons, but those coupons helped buy groceries when your father's construction clients paid late. You judged my simple life, but that simple life carried your expensive dreams. Lauren's eyes filled again, but I kept going. Your father and I gave you everything we could without making you feel the weight of it. Maybe that was our mistake. Maybe we hid too much. Maybe we protected you so well that you began to believe there had never been anything to protect you from. Mom, she whispered. No. You listened to me at the counter while you thought I was powerless. Now you will listen while I tell the truth. Robert looked down respectfully, but I knew he was hearing every word. So was the compliance officer. I no longer cared. I loved you when you were difficult. I loved you when you were selfish. I loved you when you forgot my birthday and when you corrected me like I was a child. I loved you when you made me feel small at your dinner table. I loved you through every little humiliation because I believed one day you would remember I was your mother. Lauren pressed her lips together. But love, I said, does not mean handing you the keys to destroy me. Her tears spilled over then. For a brief moment, her face crumpled. I saw her as a girl again, standing in the rain after losing a school election, furious because another child had won. Daniel had told her, losing doesn't ruin your character. How you treat people afterwards shows it. She had refused to speak to him for 2 days. Character before inheritance. Daniel had known. Lauren wiped her cheeks angrily. So what now? You're going to have me arrested? Is that what you want? I flinched because even now she knew where to press. Robert spoke before I could. No one here is making that determination in this room. The bank is preserving records and following required procedures. Lauren turned on him. You're enjoying this. His voice stayed level. I am protecting my client. Your client? She repeated with disgust. Yes, he said. Mrs. Parker. That small exchange anchored me. I looked at Robert. Please proceed with the denial and the enhanced verification. He nodded. I'll process it now. Lauren grabbed her purse. If you do this, you will regret it. The words came out cold. Not pleading now. Threatening. The office seemed to freeze. Robert's hand stopped over the keyboard. Ms. Mitchell, I advise you to reconsider your tone. Lauren looked at me, breathing hard. I mean it, Mom. You think you're being strong because Dad left you some secret file. You have no idea what this will do to Olivia, to Scott, to everyone. Then tell them the truth. I said. She stared at me. Tell them you brought me here to get access. Tell them you used my information. Tell them you called me confused because you thought no one would believe me. Her face twisted. You want to humiliate me? No, I said. I wanted you to respect me. You chose humiliation when respect would have been easier. A tear slipped down my face, but I did not wipe it away. I am your mother, Lauren, not your backup account, not your signature, not your excuse, not your safety net when pride becomes too expensive. She looked at me like she hated me then. Or maybe like she hated that I had finally become someone she could not move. Robert typed quietly. The pending access update has been denied. The finality of it filled the room. A small sound escaped Lauren's throat. He continued. Enhanced verification has been placed on Mrs. Parker's profile. No third-party access transfer authority, online management permission, or account communication privilege may be added without in-person verification and legal review. The compliance officer added, the disputed loan application is now formally flagged. Lauren sank back into the chair as if her bones had weakened. I sat too suddenly, exhausted. For years, I had imagined that standing up to my daughter would feel like victory. It did not. It felt like cutting a rope that had been tied around my heart for so long that freedom hurt. Lauren whispered, I needed help. I looked at her. No, I said softly. You needed control. She closed her eyes. Outside the office, a phone rang. Someone laughed faintly near the teller counter. Life continued in ordinary sounds while mine changed forever. Robert printed confirmation pages and placed them in a new folder. Mrs. Parker, these are copies for your records. I recommend you contact your attorney before speaking further about the disputed loan. I took the folder. My hands were steady now. Lauren stood without looking at me. At the door, she paused. For one breath, I thought she might apologize. Instead, she said, You've changed. I held Daniel's folder against my chest. No, I said. I remembered who I was. She opened the door and walked out into the lobby, where the same people who had watched her mock me now watched her leave in silence. And this time, I did not follow. When Lauren walked out of Robert Henderson's office, the silence she left behind was heavier than her anger. For a few seconds, I stayed seated, holding the folder of confirmation pages against my lap. My hands were steady, but the rest of me felt hollow. I had spent the whole morning fighting not to be treated like a helpless old woman, and now that I had won that battle, I felt strangely weak. Robert closed the office door gently. Mrs. Parker, would you like some water? I nodded. He poured a small paper cup from the cooler near the bookshelf and handed it to me. I drank slowly, mostly because I needed something ordinary to do. My throat hurt from speaking truths I had kept buried for years. "I'm sorry you had to experience that here," Robert said. I looked up at him. "I'm sorry I had to experience it anywhere." His face softened. Of course. Through the frosted glass, I could see movement in the lobby. Lauren had not left the bank immediately. Her blurred figure stood near the entrance phone pressed to her ear. Even without hearing her words, I knew she was already trying to control the story. That was what Lauren did. When truth threatened her, she moved fast. I imagined her calling Scott first. Maybe saying I had become paranoid. Maybe saying the bank had confused me. Maybe saying I was punishing her because I was lonely and bitter. I knew the rhythm of her explanations. She never lied all at once. She mixed truth with injury until she became the victim in the middle of a mess she created. Robert followed my gaze. "You do not need to speak with her right now." I know, I said, but knowing something and feeling it are two different things. Part of me wanted to open the door, call Lauren back, and beg her to make this easier. Admit one thing. Apologize for one thing. Show me even a small piece of the daughter I had spent my life loving. Another part of me, the part Daniel had tried so hard to protect, knew I could not go chasing tenderness from someone still holding a weapon. Robert handed me a business card. "This is my direct line. I've written down the next recommended steps. Contact your attorney before discussing details with family. Keep copies of all documents. Do not respond to pressure by phone or text. And if anyone asks you to sign anything, bring it to counsel first." I almost smiled. Daniel would have liked you. Robert's eyes lowered with respect. He was a good man. Yes, I whispered. He was. When I finally left the office, the lobby looked different. The same gray chairs, the same glass doors, the same soft bank lighting. But nothing felt the same. Michael Reed stood behind the counter, and when our eyes met, he gave me a small nod. Not pity. Respect. That nearly undid me. For so long, I had accepted crumbs of kindness as if they were feasts. A nod, a patient voice, a person waiting for me to finish a sentence. I had forgotten how powerful simple respect could feel when you had lived without enough of it. Lauren was near the entrance, still on the phone. When she saw me, she ended the call quickly. "Mom," she said. I stopped several feet away. The distance mattered. Her eyes flicked toward Robert, who had walked me to the lobby but stayed behind me. "Can we talk outside?" "No." Her mouth tightened. "So now you need an audience for everything?" "No," I said. "I need witnesses." That hit her. She looked around, embarrassed by the quiet attention of strangers she had not cared about when she humiliated me earlier. "Fine," she said under her breath. "I'll call you later." I may not answer. Her eyes widened. "You can't just shut me out. I can take time. I'm your daughter, and I am your mother," I said. A fact you remembered only when it benefited you. For a moment, anger flashed in her face again. Then she swallowed it, because Robert was standing there, because the lobby was watching, because she had lost the power to make me look unstable. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You don't know what you've done." I looked at her calmly. I know exactly what I stopped. Then I walked past her. Outside, the morning air struck my face cool and sharp. Downtown Columbus moved around me as if nothing had happened. Cars passed. A man in a blue jacket carried coffee. Someone laughed near the crosswalk. The world had not paused for my heartbreak. I reached my car, unlocked it, and sat behind the steering wheel without starting the engine. That was when I began to shake. Not a little tremble, a deep, full body shaking that started in my hands and moved through my chest. I pressed Daniel's ring through my blouse and bent forward over the steering wheel. "Oh, Daniel," I whispered. "You knew." The tears came then, not graceful and quiet, but ugly and exhausting. I cried for the bank counter. I cried for my forged signature. I cried for every birthday Lauren treated like an obligation. I cried for every time I had defended her to myself when the truth was already standing in front of me. And I cried because I still loved her. That was the cruelest part. By the time I drove home, my face felt swollen and my head ached. I kept both hands on the wheel, hearing Robert's advice in my mind. Do not respond to pressure by phone or text. My phone rang 3 times before I reached my street. Lauren. I let it ring, then again. Lauren. Then a text appeared on the screen at a red light. Mom, this is getting out of control. Call me before you make it worse. I did not answer. Another text arrived before I pulled into my driveway. You're going to destroy this family over paperwork. I sat in my car staring at those words. Paperwork. Daniel's protection was paperwork. My forged signature was paperwork. My fear, my humiliation, my safety all reduced to paperwork because that was easier than saying betrayal. Inside the house, everything was quiet. The kitchen smelled faintly of the lemon soap I used that morning. Daniel's mug still sat in the sink. The calendar still said bank with Lauren, as if the day had been simple. I placed Robert's folder on the kitchen table beside Daniel's old blue folder. For a long time, I just looked at them together. Past and present, warning and proof. Then, my phone rang again. This time, it was not Lauren. It was Nathan Brooks, the attorney Daniel and I had used years earlier for our wills. His voice was older than I remembered, but steady. Chloe, he said, Robert Henderson called with your permission. He said there may be an urgent matter involving Daniel's trust. I sat down slowly. Yes, I said. There is. Nathan was quiet for a moment. Are you safe, steady? Chloe, he said, Robert Henderson called with your permission. He said there may be an urgent matter involving Daniel's trust. I sat down slowly. Yes, I said. There is. Nathan was quiet for a moment. Are you safe? That question nearly broke me all over again. Not what did you sign? Not how much money? Not what did Lauren say? Are you safe? I'm home, I whispered. That is not exactly what I asked. I closed my eyes. No, I said honestly. I don't think I feel safe anymore. Then we start there, Nathan replied. Do not meet Lauren alone. Do not discuss the file by phone. Save every message. Tomorrow, we will review the trust, the attempted access forms, and the disputed loan application. I looked toward the hallway, toward the bedroom where Daniel had once slept beside me, toward the life I thought was small, but peaceful. Nathan, I said, Lauren is already telling people I'm confused. He sighed softly. Then we will make sure the truth is clearer than her version. After we hung up, I checked my phone again. 7 missed calls from Lauren, 2 from Scott, 1 text from Olivia. Grandma Mom is crying and saying something happened at the bank. Are you okay? I stared at Olivia's message for a long time. My granddaughter, sweet, observant Olivia. The one person in Lauren's house who often saw too much and said too little. I typed carefully. I'm safe, sweetheart. I love you. We will talk soon. I did not explain, not yet. Because Nathan was right. Truth needed care. Evidence needed protection. And my heart, after years of being handled carelessly, needed protection too. That evening, as the sun lowered behind the houses across the street, I sat at my kitchen table with both folders in front of me. For the first time since Daniel died, I did not feel like a woman waiting for life to happen to her. I felt like a woman preparing to answer it. By 9 o'clock the next morning, Nathan Brooks was sitting at my kitchen table with Daniel's blue folder on one side and Robert Henderson's bank folder on the other. Nathan was 72 now, with white hair, square glasses, and the same careful way of speaking I remembered from years ago. He had been Daniel's attorney for business contracts, property transfers, and eventually the trust documents I had avoided reading too closely. He did not arrive in a hurry. He arrived prepared. That steadied me. He brought a leather briefcase, a yellow legal pad, and a calmness that filled my kitchen like a warm blanket. Before he touched a single document, he looked at me across the table and said, "How did you sleep?" I almost laughed. I didn't. I expected as much. I kept hearing her voice. "Lawrence?" I nodded. At the bank, in my phone, in my head. Nathan took off his glasses and cleaned them with a cloth. People who are used to controlling a room often become loudest when they lose control of the facts. I looked at the folders. She's already telling people I'm confused. I assumed she would. That hurt more than I expected. Not because Nathan was unkind, but because Lauren's behavior had become predictable to people who were not blinded by being her mother. My phone had not stopped buzzing since the night before. Scott called twice more. Lauren sent 5 texts. One said, "We need to talk like adults." Another said, "You're forcing me to defend myself." The last one arrived at 6:12 that morning. "If you love Olivia, don't drag this out." That was the message that made me call Nathan before sunrise. He read it, his expression hardening slightly. "That is pressure." "She knows Olivia is my soft spot." "Yes," he said, "and that is why we will be careful." We spent the next hour reviewing documents. Nathan explained the trust more plainly than anyone ever had. Daniel had placed certain investment accounts, property interests, and protective financial structures under terms that made me the controlling authority. Lauren was not excluded entirely, but Daniel had deliberately prevented automatic access. Assistance to her required my written approval and evidence that it would not endanger my security. Then Nathan found the section that made him sit back slowly. "What is it?" I asked. He tapped the page. Daniel anticipated coercion. The word made my stomach tighten. He wrote that no beneficiary or family member may gain control through intimidation, emotional pressure, misrepresentation, or claims that Chloe Parker lacks capacity without medical and legal review. I stared at the page. "Your husband was thorough," Nathan said. I pressed my fingers to Daniel's ring. He knew Lauren. Nathan did not answer right away. He loved Lauren. But yes, he saw patterns. Patterns. That word had followed me since the bank. Not one cruel comment. Not one forged signature. Not one bad morning. A pattern. Small disrespect growing into entitlement. Entitlement growing into control. Control growing into fraud. Nathan gathered copies into neat stacks. "Chloe, we need the family to hear the truth before Lauren's version hardens. I don't want a war." "I know, but silence gives her room to define you." The idea of a family meeting filled me with dread. Lauren's husband, Scott. My sister-in-law, Marcia. Daniel's younger brother, Frank. A few relatives who had always admired Lauren's success and pitied my quiet life. And Olivia, the child I most wanted to protect. "Does Olivia need to be there?" I asked. Nathan's gaze softened. "She is 17. She is old enough to know when adults are lying around her. I looked down at my hands. She texted me, I said. She knows something is wrong. Then she is already in it, Nathan replied gently. The question is whether she hears truth or panic. By noon, Nathan had called Robert Henderson. Robert agreed to attend by video for a limited factual confirmation about the bank's actions, not the entire private file. Nathan also prepared copies of the denied access forms, the bank's confirmation of enhanced verification, and a written statement that the disputed loan application had been flagged for review. I called Marcia first. She was Daniel's older sister, 74, sharp-tongued, but fair. She answered on the second ring. Chloe Lauren called me last night, she said before I could explain. She said you had a spell at the bank. I closed my eyes. A spell. She said that. She said you got confused, accused her of stealing, and embarrassed her in public. My chest burned. Nathan, sitting across from me, lifted one finger as if to remind me to breathe. Marcia, I said carefully, I need you to come to my house at 6 tonight. There are documents you need to see. She was quiet. Documents. Yes. Is this about Daniel's trust? My eyes flew to Nathan. Marcia exhaled. Honey, I don't know the details, but I knew Daniel had concerns. My voice trembled. Why didn't anyone tell me? Because you loved that girl so hard, nobody knew how to get between you. That sentence stayed with me all afternoon. At 6 o'clock, my living room held more tension than it had ever held in all the years Daniel and I lived there. Marcia arrived first, carrying a casserole no one would eat. Frank came with his wife Denise. Scott arrived without Lauren, at first looking pale and confused in a navy polo. Olivia came with him, her dark hair pulled back, her eyes searching my face the second she walked in. Grandma, she whispered. I opened my arms, and she came straight to me. The hug almost broke my resolve. She was trembling. I'm okay, I whispered into her hair. No, you're not, she whispered back. Then Lauren arrived. She came in wearing black slacks and a cream blouse composed enough to tell me she had prepared herself. Her eyes moved around the room, calculating who was present, who might be on her side where the threat was. When she saw Nathan sitting by the fireplace with a stack of folders, her mouth tightened. So this is what we're doing, she said. Nathan stood. We are clarifying facts. Lauren laughed bitterly. No, you're staging an ambush. Marcia's voice cut through the room. Sit down, Lauren. Lauren looked startled. Aunt Marcia. I said sit. Something about Marcia's tone carried Daniel in it. Lauren sat. I remained standing near the coffee table. My knees felt weak, but Olivia moved beside me, not touching me, just close enough that I felt less alone. Nathan began with the bank forms. He did not dramatize. He did not accuse. He simply explained that Lauren had brought me to the bank for documents granting her significant access to my accounts. He explained that I had not understood the full scope because Lauren described them as routine family updates. He explained that the bank manager paused the transaction because of protections Daniel had placed on my profile. Scott turned toward Lauren. You told me it was just a state organization. Lauren's face flushed. That's what it was. Nathan slid a copy across the coffee table. No, these forms included access authority. Scott picked up the page. His eyes moved over it and his face changed. Then Nathan discussed the business loan application. Lauren stood. No, absolutely not. You are not doing this in front of my daughter. Olivia's voice shook, but it was clear. Mom, I'm already hearing it. Lauren turned toward her. Olivia, this is adult business. No, Olivia said. This is Grandma's life. The room went silent. Lauren looked as if her own daughter had slapped her. Nathan continued gently. A business credit line application connected to Mitchell Strategic Media LLC listed Chloe Parker as a guarantor. Chloe denies authorizing it. The bank has flagged the signature as disputed. Scott stared at Lauren. You said the credit line was delayed because of underwriting. Lauren whispered, Scott not here. Did you use your mother's name? She did not answer. Frank muttered, Good Lord. Marcia closed her eyes. I watched Lauren's carefully built world begin to crack, not with shouting, but with silence. The silence of people seeing what they could no longer unsee. Nathan opened his laptop. Robert Henderson appeared on video, formal and composed. He confirmed only what he was allowed to confirm. The access transaction had been denied. My profile had enhanced verification, and a disputed application connected to my identity was under review. When the call ended, no one spoke. Then Olivia stepped forward. In her hands was a folded piece of paper. Grandma, she said softly, there's something I think everyone should hear. Lauren's head snapped up. Olivia, don't. But Olivia did not look at her mother. She looked at me. I found this in one of Grandpa Daniel's old books last year, she said. I didn't understand why he wrote it. I think I do now. My breath caught. She unfolded the paper and began to read. If the day comes when money makes someone forget love, remind them that family is not proven by what we inherit, but by how we protect one another when there is something to gain. Olivia's voice broke. Character before inheritance. The room blurred through my tears. Daniel's words had found us again, and this time everyone heard them. Olivia's voice trembled as she finished reading Daniel's words, but she did not fold the paper right away. No one moved. The room seemed to hold its breath around my granddaughter, around that old piece of paper, around the sentence Daniel had somehow left for the exact wound we were standing inside. Character before inheritance. Lauren stared at Olivia as if she had betrayed her. Scott sat forward with both elbows on his knees, the copy of the bank form hanging loosely from one hand. Marcia pressed a tissue to the corner of her eye. Frank looked down at the carpet, jaw tight, as though he was remembering every warning Daniel had ever tried to give. I could barely see through my tears. Olivia, I whispered. Why didn't you tell me you had that? She looked ashamed. I didn't know if I was supposed to. I found it inside Grandpa's old copy of The Old Man and the Sea when Mom gave me some of his books. I thought maybe it was just something he wrote for himself. Lauren's voice came out sharp. You went through private family things? Olivia turned toward her mother slowly. You mean like Grandma's bank records? The room went so still that even Lauren seemed stunned by the force of those words. Her face crumpled, then hardened, then crumpled again. For the first time all evening, she looked less angry than exposed. That is not fair, she said. Olivia's eyes filled. No, Mom. What you did wasn't fair. Lauren stood as if she could not bear sitting under her daughter's gaze. You don't understand. None of you understand. I have been carrying everything. The bills, the house, the image, Olivia's college plans, Scott's job, uncertainty, my clients backing out. Scott looked up. My job, uncertainty. Lauren froze. He stood slowly. What are you talking about? She closed her eyes, realizing she had said too much. Scott's voice dropped. Lauren. She pressed her fingers to her temples. Your company has been cutting people for months. You said yourself there might be restructuring. That doesn't mean I lost my job. I know, but I had to prepare. By putting your mother's name on a business credit line. Lauren whirled toward him. You weren't helping. Scott stepped back as if the words physically hit him. Olivia flinched. I saw then how deep the cracks in Lauren's home had become. This was not only about me. I had been the softest target, the safest person to pressure, because she believed I would absorb the damage quietly. But control had not begun at the bank. It had been living in her house, in her marriage, in her motherhood, in the way everyone around her had learned to step carefully. Nathan cleared his throat. Lauren blaming pressure does not erase conduct. She turned on him. Of course you would say that. You're all acting like I woke up one morning trying to hurt my mother. Did you, Marcia asked? Lauren's mouth opened. Marcia leaned forward. Did you wake up intending to hurt Chloe? No. Then when did you decide her consent didn't matter? That question landed harder than any accusation. Lauren looked at me. For the first time that night, she really looked at me. Not as an obstacle, not as a source of money, not as a confused elderly woman she could manage. Just me, her mother. The woman who had raised her, paid for her, defended her, waited for her, forgiven her. Her lips trembled. I didn't think of it like that, she whispered. I believed her, and that made it worse, because harm done without thinking is still harm. Sometimes it is even more revealing. It shows what a person has trained themselves not to see. I sat down slowly on the edge of the armchair. Lauren, do you know what hurt me most? She wiped her face. The signature. I shook my head. The signature broke my trust. But what hurt most was how easily you humiliated me before you knew what I had. Her shoulders dropped. At the bank counter, I said you believed I was just an old woman with a basic checking account. You believed I had no power, no hidden file, no protection. And that was when your true opinion of me came out. Lauren's tears spilled silently now. You mocked me when you thought I had nothing. I continued. That is what I cannot forget. The room went quiet again. Lauren covered her mouth. I'm sorry, she said, but the words were so soft they barely reached me. I had imagined her apology many times over the years. Not for this, because I had never imagined this, but for smaller wounds. I imagined she would one day say she was sorry for forgetting my birthday, for dismissing my grief, for making me feel like a burden. I imagined I would hear those words and feel immediate relief. But when she finally said them, I felt cautious. Not cold, not cruel, just cautious. Are you sorry, I asked, or are you scared? She lowered her hand. Both. That answer at least sounded honest. Nathan watched quietly. He did not interrupt. Neither did Scott. Olivia stood near the fireplace, Daniel's paper still in her hand. Lauren took one step toward me. Mom, I know I was wrong. I searched her face. I wanted to believe the best of her. A mother's heart does not stop reaching simply because it has been cut. But I had learned something at the bank. Love must be allowed to ask for evidence. What were you wrong about? I asked. She blinked. What if you know, say it. Her face flushed, but she did not get angry this time. She looked down at her hands. I was wrong to bring you to the bank without explaining the documents. I waited. I was wrong to talk down to you. I still waited. I was wrong to use your information for the loan application. Marcia made a small sound under her breath. Lauren swallowed. And I was wrong to let someone sign your name. The room changed. Scott stared at her. Let someone... Nathan sat forward. Lauren, be very careful. Lauren's face crumpled. I didn't sign it myself. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. Then who did? She looked at Scott, then Olivia, then me. My assistant, Brooke. I gave her old documents and told her to prepare the application packet. She said the lender needed everything completed fast. I knew she copied the signature from an old form. I knew it was wrong. I told myself it was temporary, that I would explain it later, that once the credit line was approved, I could fix everything. Scott whispered Lauren. Olivia sat down hard on the sofa. Nathan's voice was firm. Did you instruct your assistant to copy Chloe's signature? Lauren closed her eyes. No, she said. Then she opened them. But I didn't stop it. That was the closest thing to full truth she had given. It did not absolve her, but it ended the fog. For years, Lauren had lived in fog. Half-truths, softened explanations, sharp accusations whenever someone stepped too close. Now the fog had thinned enough for everyone to see the shape of what happened. I leaned back, suddenly exhausted. Lauren turned to me. Mom, please. I will cooperate with the bank. I'll tell Nathan everything. I'll withdraw the loan. I'll fix it. You cannot fix this quickly, Nathan said. You can only begin to repair it honestly. Lauren nodded, crying openly now. Then I'll begin. I wanted to reach for her. My hands twitched in my lap, old instincts rising. Comfort her. Tell her it will be okay. Reduce the consequence so she does not suffer too much. Save your child. But another instinct rose beside it, quieter and wiser. Save yourself too. I folded my hands together. Lauren, I said, I forgive you enough not to hate you. She looked at me with desperate hope. But I do not trust you enough to give you access to anything. Her face fell. I will not sign authority over my accounts. I will not withdraw the bank review. I will not lie for you. I will not let you use Olivia as pressure. And I will not be alone with you until Nathan says it is wise. She began to cry harder. Mom, please don't cut me off. I am not cutting you off, I said. I am cutting off your control. The difference mattered. Maybe not to her yet, but it mattered to me. Olivia came to my side then and took my hand. Her palm was warm and trembling. Scott spoke quietly. Lauren, we need to go home and talk. Honestly. Lauren looked afraid of him now too, not because he was cruel, but because truth had reached her marriage. Nathan gathered the documents. Well, schedule a formal meeting. Lauren, you should retain counsel before making written statements. Chloe, I will stay after everyone leaves. One by one, they began to rise. At the door, Lauren stopped. Her makeup was streaked, her hair less perfect, her face stripped of polish. Mom, she said, I really am sorry. I looked at my daughter and I let myself grieve the apology I wished had come before the damage. I hope one day I said you become sorry in a way that changes you. She nodded, unable to speak. Then she left. Olivia hugged me before going with Scott. She whispered, I'm proud of you, Grandma. After the door closed, I sat in the quiet living room with Nathan and Marcia nearby. Daniel's words still resting on the coffee table. I had forgiven Lauren enough to keep my heart from turning bitter. But for the first time in my life, I understood that forgiveness did not require surrender. After everyone left that night, my living room felt like a room after a storm. The chairs were not where they belonged. A half-empty glass of water sat on the coffee table. Marcia's untouched casserole waited in the kitchen, still covered in foil. Daniel's handwritten note lay beside Nathan's folders, small and fragile, yet somehow stronger than every argument Lauren had made. Nathan stayed behind just as he promised. He did not rush me. He let me sit in the quiet until I could breathe without feeling like my chest might split open. Finally, he asked, What do you want now? Chloe? It seemed like such a simple question, but I realized I had spent most of my life answering different ones. What does Lauren need? What would keep the peace? What would Daniel have wanted? What will people think? What can I give without causing trouble? No one had asked me what I wanted in so long that the question felt almost unfamiliar. I looked around the room Daniel and I had built together. The old family photographs, the quilt folded over the sofa, the little ceramic bird Olivia made when she was 9, the lamp Daniel repaired twice because I refused to throw it away. This house had held birthdays, grief, laughter, arguments, Christmas mornings, hospital updates, and every quiet evening after Daniel died. I want peace, I said. Nathan nodded slowly. Then we structure everything around that. The next week became a week of papers, meetings, and difficult choices. Nathan came by twice. Robert Henderson joined one meeting by phone. A trust specialist from Nathan's firm explained options I had never imagined I would need. For the first time, I read Daniel's entire file from beginning to end. It was not only about money, it was about protection. Daniel had left room for mercy, but he had also left boundaries. He had created a structure that allowed me to help Lauren if I chose, but never at the cost of my own security. He had named Olivia as someone he hoped would be supported in education. He had included language about charitable giving, especially for widows, elderly homeowners, and people vulnerable to financial pressure from relatives. When I read that part, I put the paper down and cried. Daniel had seen more of the world than he ever spoke aloud. Years in construction had taken him into all kinds of homes. Beautiful ones, broken ones. Houses where elderly parents signed things they did not understand. Houses where adult children smiled in public and threatened in private. Houses where love had become a weapon with family written on the handle. Nathan sat across from me while I wiped my eyes. He wanted you to have choices, he said. I spent so long being afraid of making the wrong choice. Sometimes the wrong choice is letting someone else keep choosing for you. That sentence stayed with me. By Friday, I made my decision. We revised the trust. Not out of revenge. That mattered to me. I did not want bitterness to become the author of my final years. I did not want Lauren's worst day, or even her worst pattern, to turn me into someone cruel. But I also refused to let guilt write my future. Nathan prepared the documents carefully. First, my home would remain fully protected for my lifetime. No one could borrow against it, sell it, transfer interest in it, or pressure me to change ownership without independent legal review. Second, Olivia would receive a dedicated education fund paid directly to her college or training program, not through Lauren. Whether she chose a university, community college, nursing program, art school, or something else entirely, the money would follow her growth, not her mother's control. Third, a portion of the Parker Family Trust would eventually support a new charitable fund in Daniel's name, the Safe Harbor Fund. Its purpose would be to help older women facing financial manipulation within families. Nathan suggested partnering with a local nonprofit in Ohio that already worked with seniors and widows. I liked that. I did not need my name on a building. I needed some other woman someday to hear the words I wished someone had said to me sooner. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to ask questions. You are allowed to protect what is yours. Fourth, Lauren's inheritance would become conditional. That was the hardest part. Nathan explained it plainly. Lauren would not be disowned, but she would no longer have direct or immediate access to anything. Any future distribution would require proof of financial counseling cooperation with the bank. Review written accountability for the attempted loan application and a sustained period without pressuring me, Olivia, or anyone else connected to the trust. If she changes, I asked, will this allow mercy? Yes, Nathan said, but it will not allow manipulation. That was enough. I signed the revised documents in Nathan's office on a rainy afternoon. His office smelled like paper coffee and old wood. As I held the pen, I thought about the bank counter. Lauren pushing the pen toward me. Just sign it. My hand trembling, then my dignity hanging by a thread. This time, my hand did not tremble. This time, I understood every page. This time, no one rushed me. When I finished signing, Nathan gathered the documents and said, "Daniel would be proud." I looked out the window at the rain sliding down the glass. I hope so. He would. On my way home, I stopped at the cemetery. The rain had softened to a mist by then. Daniel's grave sat beneath a maple tree, the stone darkened by water. I carried a small bouquet of yellow roses because those had always been his favorite to bring me when he wanted to apologize for working late. I stood there for a long time. I opened the file. I said softly. The cemetery was quiet, except for rain ticking against leaves. "You were right about some things," I continued. "I wish you hadn't been. I wish our girl had chosen differently." My voice broke on our girl, because Lauren was still that, too. Not only the woman who mocked me, not only the daughter who tried to use my name, she was also the child Daniel and I had loved. The baby child Daniel and I had loved. The baby we brought home in a pink blanket. The teenager we waited up for. The young woman we sent into the world with every dollar and prayer we had. I didn't cut her off completely. We brought home in a pink blanket. The teenager we waited up for. The young woman we sent into the world with every dollar and prayer we had. I didn't cut her off completely, I said. I left a door, but I put a lock on it. A sad little laugh escaped me. "You would probably say that sounds like good construction." I placed the roses beside his stone. "The Safe Harbor Fund will have your name." "I hope that's all right. You protected me. Maybe now we can protect someone else." For the first time in days, the grief inside me felt less like a wound and more like a river moving forward. Lauren called that evening. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened. Her voice was quiet. "Mom, Nathan sent the letter. I know you changed the trust. I'm angry, but I'm trying not to lead with that. Scott and I are going to counseling. I spoke to the bank. I'm cooperating. Brooke is getting her own lawyer. I don't know what happens next. I know I don't deserve anything from you right now. I just wanted to say, I'm starting to understand that sorry is not a word. It has to become behavior." I sat at my kitchen table and listened twice. Then I saved the message. I did not call back. Not because I hated her, because I had finally learned not every knock at the door required me to open it immediately. That Sunday, Olivia came over alone. We made soup together. She chopped carrots while I stirred the pot. For a while, neither of us spoke about the bank, the meeting, or her mother. Then she said, "Grandma, am I wrong for being mad at her?" "No, sweetheart. I still love her." "I know." That makes it confusing. I turned the heat down under the soup and looked at her. Love often stays after trust is broken. That does not mean trust has to come back quickly. She nodded, eyes shining. "Grandpa really wrote that note?" "Yes." She looked toward Daniel's photograph on the shelf. "I think he knew we'd need him." I smiled through tears. "Your grandfather always kept extra nails in his pocket because he said you never knew what might need holding together." Olivia laughed softly, and for the first time in a long while, laughter did not feel like betrayal. It felt like healing. By the end of that week, the legal papers were complete. The bank protections were in place. The Safe Harbor Fund had begun. Lauren's access was blocked unless true change came first. I had not destroyed my family. I had changed the terms by which I would allow myself to be loved, and that made all the difference. 6 months passed before I could walk into that bank again without feeling my chest tighten. The first time I returned, Robert Henderson met me near the entrance instead of making me wait at the counter. He shook my hand, asked about Olivia, and walked me to his office like I was exactly what Daniel had always known I was. a woman worthy of respect. The lobby looked the same marble floor, same gray chairs, same soft hum of printers and quiet conversations. But I was not the same woman who had stood there with a pen pushed toward her and shame burning her face. That woman had been afraid to make a scene. This woman understood that sometimes silence is the scene that harms you most. The bank review eventually confirmed what Lauren had admitted. Her assistant had prepared the disputed application packet, but Lauren had provided the materials, approved the submission, and failed to correct the false signature before it entered the system. The credit line was withdrawn. Lauren faced professional consequences, legal fees, and a long compliance process. She did not go to jail, but she did not walk away untouched either. For once, consequences did what my forgiveness could not. They slowed her down. Scott moved out for 3 months. Olivia stayed mostly with him during that time, though she came to my house every Sunday. We cooked, watched old movies, sorted through Daniel's books, and sometimes sat on the porch without saying much at all. One afternoon, Olivia held Daniel's note in her hands and said, "Grandma, do you think people really change?" I looked at the maple tree in the yard, its leaves turning gold in the fall light. "I think people can," I said, "but only when they stop calling consequences cruelty." She nodded like she needed to hear that. Lauren began therapy. At first, I suspected she only did it because the trust required it. Maybe that was true, but slowly her messages changed. They became shorter, less dramatic, less demanding. One read, "I wanted to call and defend myself today. Instead, I'm writing this down and taking it to counseling." Another said, "I told Olivia I was wrong without explaining why I felt pressured." She cried. I listened. The message that stayed with me came near Thanksgiving. "Mom, I used to think respect meant people admiring what I built. I'm starting to realize I didn't build much if I had to keep taking from the people who loved me." I read that message 3 times. Then I placed the phone down and let myself cry. Not because everything was fixed, because something had finally cracked open. We did not have Thanksgiving together that year. I chose peace over appearances. Marcia came over, Nathan stopped by with pie, and Olivia spent the afternoon with me before going to her father's place. Lauren sent flowers, but for once the card was handwritten. "I'm learning that love without respect becomes selfish. Thank you for not letting me keep being selfish." I put the card on the mantel beside Daniel's photograph. Christmas was quieter, too. No grand family performance. No forced smiles over polished silverware. Just a small dinner at my house with Olivia, Marcia, Frank, and later, surprisingly, Lauren. She came alone. She wore a simple green sweater, no sharp blazer, no expensive armor. At the door, she did not sweep inside like she owned the room. She waited. "May I come in?" she asked. Those 5 words told me more than any apology had. I stepped aside. Dinner was not perfect. Healing rarely is. Lauren cried once when Olivia barely answered her question. Scott did not come. I still felt guarded when Lauren walked near the hallway where I kept my papers. Trust does not rise again just because someone finally lowers their voice. But after dinner, Lauren helped wash dishes. No announcement, no performance. She simply stood beside me at the sink, sleeves rolled up, rinsing plates while I dried them with the blue towel Daniel used to hang over his shoulder. For a while, we worked in silence. Then she said, "I remember you working at the bakery." I looked at her. She kept her eyes on the plate in her hands. "I used to pretend I didn't, because if I admitted how tired you were, then I'd have to admit how much you gave up." My throat tightened. "I was angry at you for seeming small," she whispered. "Because deep down, I knew you had made yourself small, so I could feel big." I placed the towel on the counter. "Lauren," I said, "I did not make myself small. I made sacrifices. There is a difference, but you treated both like weakness." She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I know," For the first time, I believed she was beginning to. Not fully, not perfectly, but beginning. The Safe Harbor Fund launched in early spring. Nathan arranged a modest event at a community center in Columbus. I did not want cameras or speeches, but Marcia insisted Daniel would haunt me if I hid the good part after surviving the hard part. So I stood before a small room of social workers, attorneys, bank representatives, church volunteers, and older women who understood too much without needing details. I told them my story without naming Lauren. I told them about the bank counter, the hidden file, the signature that was not mine, the husband who protected me with paperwork because he knew love sometimes needs legal walls. Then I said, no woman should have to prove she deserves control over her own life simply because she got older. People stood and clapped. I searched the room and found Olivia crying openly. Behind her near the back wall, Lauren stood with her hands folded in front of her. She did not clap loudly. She did not rush to hug me afterward. She simply mouthed 2 words. I'm proud. And this time, I let those words reach me slowly. A year after the day at the bank, I sat alone on my porch at Sunset Daniel's ring still hanging from the chain around my neck. The tulips had come up again near the mailbox. The porch still sagged a little. The kitchen cabinets still had Daniel's brass handles. My life was not grand, but it was mine. Lauren and I were not what we used to pretend to be. We were something more honest now. She visited once a month. She asked before coming. She never mentioned the trust unless Nathan was present. She was still learning humility like a language she should have learned long ago. Olivia started college that fall with support paid directly from the education fund. On the day she left, she hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. Grandma, she whispered, you didn't just protect yourself. You protected me too. I watched her drive away and understood Daniel's legacy at last. It was not the accounts. It was not the property. It was not the hidden file. It was the courage to draw a line before love turned into surrender. People sometimes ask if I regret what happened. I regret the pain. I regret the years I spent excusing disrespect because it came from someone I loved. I regret that Lauren had to lose trust before she understood its value, but I do not regret standing up. That day at the bank, my daughter mocked me because she thought I was powerless. Then a hidden file revealed money documents, protections, and truth. But the greatest thing it revealed was me, Chloe Parker, a mother, a widow, a woman who had given enough. And finally, a woman who remembered that her dignity was never up for transfer.